guys? It's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pawel the Cat Seaton, and I've got my beautiful, unfortunately, always right co-host, Evan. Evan, how you doing?
Okay, you threw me off. You actually said I'm always right. That just kind of threw it. Guys, I'm Reverend Evan Reddert's back at you. We apologize. We missed last week. Really, I just needed some time off, Pawel. I was exhausted from that last series for the Western Conference.
It was a lot to take. It's been a chaotic thing, but we're gonna get into the Stanley Cup preview. But first, remember to like, share, subscribe. This is season 3, episode 37. We love having you on. We love all the fans. We love people from all around the world tuning in, commenting. We want to know, what is your Stanley Cup prediction? Because we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it. So, Evan, give us a quick overview of where we got to with who we have in the final competing for Lord Stanley.
Are you asking me how we got there?
Well, how is it that these two teams are the ones that came out of there? What made them the greatest two teams?
Well, obviously, because they won. Okay, no, seriously.
This is why you guys come to the show for instant analysis, not in-depth, instant.
Yeah, so that's the difference. I should go by instant Ev. But yeah, no, I mean, let's look through this. We talked about this. It was the high-scoring offense of the Colorado Avalanche, and you had the defensive prowess of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But interesting enough, they now come to collide tomorrow night, Wednesday, which is normally our time that we air, but we're airing a night before just so that we can partake also in the Stanley Cup. So we will be airing around the Stanley Cup games until the end of the season here. So why? Because I don't want you telling me the scores in the middle of the game. So let's walk through this. Let's walk through this right now. So this is interesting. The Colorado Avalanche literally walloped. Now, they were a struggling team in Edmonton because they were hurting bad. We had Nurse, you had Draisaitl, you had a bunch of other players that were dealing with injuries. But they also lost one of their players in Kadri. They also lost, Kemper was out earlier there. They didn't bring him back in, so they were playing with a backup goalie, if you want to call it that. Edmonton always struggles against backup goalies. They make backup goalies look like superstars. But, I mean, they swept the series. But I want everyone to remember something. Last year, the Oilers were swept by the Winnipeg Jets in round 1. Now, in the Final Four, they were swept. Remember, there's something that happens when you get swept when it comes to being humiliated. And all you got to do is talk to former players. But Colorado, there was no answer. They could score all they wanted, but Colorado had the power to come back. And frankly, I hope people take notice of Cale Makar, because Cale Makar is as close as you're going to get to the modern day Ray Bourque, Paul Coffey kind of a player. This guy is phenomenal. Hopefully he gets his due with the type of player he is. I actually saw very few games of actual Cale Makar in full games, and I can honestly tell you he was way more impressive defensively than I even thought he could be. We knew he had all the offense, so I'm going to change my vote and move it from I always thought that Rossi was the best defenseman this year. No way. Makar by far, if you add the playoffs, of course, into that. And then let's move over to Tampa. Interesting enough, the Rangers came out flying. I know Jim loves that. But when they came out, I actually thought for a moment that Tampa would not be able to recover, and I would never have thought that they could have came back in a 4-game sweep. But Vasilevsky, you guys keep writing him off with a game here, a game there. He stands in place. So let me go back to the very beginning. One of the reasons with those teams, the Rangers have a great young offense. They got a lot of good new young players. They got a lot of experience, and they have an incredible goaltender who really is the Vezina. He's the best player, I believe. However, who is the best all-around goalie and pays off in the playoffs is Vasilevsky. Plus, they got Hedman, and then they got Kucherov, and then they have all the extra stardom around these guys. They are still the total team with 5-on-5 or on PK and or power play. They're phenomenal. So give the Rangers their due, give the Oilers their due, but Colorado, Tampa, man, this is probably the most expected Stanley Cup in history.
Oh yeah. Well, the show should be called "One Guy Goes on a Rant Talk."
I was
That's
not a
all you can
rant.
say.
I was
No,
not a
so
rant.
you've made some valid
Dude,
arguments
dude,
about
dude.
everything.
Okay, come on. We never grabbed a bevy. We jumped into this too quick. You guys, we're rusty right now. So I don't mean my name's not Rusty. His name may be, but
As you all know,
okay.
I know nothing about hockey, but Evan knows everything. So I applaud him for actually saying not once, woo, not twice, woo, but three, woo, Pete. That's right, three, Pete, woo. That's Evan's saying. So you know that it's coming that way. I agree with you.
Dude, I can't do that now. You just stole it from my.
I didn't do it as good. I'm imitating you, right? What do they say?
No,
Life
good.
imitates art, right?
Yeah.
And I'm imitating art.
So tell me, leading to this final, give your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, when we first did our predictions, I said it was going to be Calgary versus Tampa Bay, and it's going to be a repeat of 2004. So I was halfly correct. However, on my NHL bracket, I actually did predict that Colorado would end up facing Tampa Bay. So I clearly can't pick a side or a lane. So I flip flop all over the place. This is why I'm a terrible analyst or viewer. But that's what I love about hockey. You can change your mind into any given minute. Cale Makar is unreal as a player, as a defenseman, what he brings. And he's only 22 years old. And he's so dynamite on skates. And to watch him with McKinnon and Landeskog. Now, you forgot to mention that they are also missing Samuel Girard, who's been injured for a while now. And
yes.
I think that was in the St. Louis, and that was a big one, right? Now, I know Kadri may make his way back, and that's not to say Tampa isn't missing some guys, Braden Point, who may make his appearance. Now, the one thing I would say is, like, guys play for this opportunity all their lives, right? That's the whole goal, to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're telling me that neither Kadri nor Braden Point are going to try to get in at least one game. Now, I understand if it's an injury that's like Samuel Girard with that hit. I think whoever hit him down, like, that was a big hit. You guys can comment and let me know, but that's that takes you out, and unless you physically can't clear, you're going to want to play. You saw what Nurse played through. You're hearing some of the injury reports from the Rangers now that they've played. I think these teams are fairly even. I think this is going to be like an unstoppable force moving versus an immovable object, because it's going to be so tight. Like, Tampa plays defensively, but Colorado can come at you in waves. The one area I give Tampa is goaltending. As much as I like Darcy Kemper and Pavel Francois, you can't go against Vasilevsky, who's turned it on. No. Very impressive thing. And I want to ask you, Evan, before I get ahead, do you now consider, if they win this series, or in general, just thinking about goaltenders, knowing who the legends are, is he in your top 3 and or top 5 of goaltenders of all time? When you consider Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, Dominic Hasek, Jacques Plante, some of these guys. And again, probably older, even if, Eddie Belfour, was a prominent goaltender, right? Like, what are your thoughts? Do you consider him?
Yeah, I'm going to. So you're talking big company here over a long period of time. And we always got to remember that winning a cup doesn't make you less, right? Because it depends on your team around you. But Vasilevsky, I would put already, if he was to retire or got injured or something, heaven forbid, I put him in top 10 all time right now. That's where he sits for me. But another Stanley Cup and another couple good seasons could move him into that top 5. It's going to be hard to get past people like, Jacques Plante,
Andy Moog.
Well, Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur. I mean, that's pretty elite company. But I mean, the guy is going in that direction, and nothing's going to hold. I guess I see, just like Crosby has sunk himself into the top best Hall of Fame players ever. I think that's what Vasilevsky is doing, but he's got many years left, though. That's the difference in this case. So great call, Vasilevsky. I mean, amazing player.
Now, in terms of their back end, who do you prefer? Do you prefer Tampa's back end, where you got Victor Hedman, who again has been a Norris winner multiple times? He's elite. You've got Ryan McDonough, who's a very steady presence. You got Eric Cernak, who's really very underappreciated and underutilized. And of course, the not very good trade from Montreal is Nikolai Sergachev, and I know that they wanted Jonathan Drouin for a center, but he's worked out great, and then you've got some bottom guys too, but that top four versus Devon Tays, who again he was stolen by Joe Sakic from the Islanders, and to play with Cale Makar, and you've got some other guys in the back end in what's it called? Bo Byram. He's really steadied that area there, even though he's a rookie. He's got, I think, 7 or 8 assists. No goals yet, but he's making his way as a rookie,
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the back end for each team?
Well, yeah. Devon Tays. The guy's just been phenomenal coming over. And I'm going to say this. I'm sorry to say this. I don't want to say this, but Pavel was right. He was a steal of a deal, and he was a great pickup. And other teams should have jumped on the bandwagon with Pavel, because obviously he's turned out excellent.
For every 100 wrong ideas I have, I get one right, so I'll take it.
But I was just like, no way this guy's going to be worth it, But let's just look at what you're dealing with, because you're not dealing with a high-octane offense outside of Victor Hedman when it comes to the back end. But I'll tell you what's different about the defense for Tampa. Tampa doesn't their gap is really good, meaning the defense and the forwards, when they're coming and trying to cross over that blue line, your defensemen are pushing the puck off that stick and making it difficult to gain possession into the defensive zone, or in this case, into the offensive zone for the opposing teams. And so I think Colorado's going to struggle when it comes to, because you got Victor Hedman working, for example, with Eric Chernak. You got Zach Bogosian working with Ryan McDonough. You have a lot of experience. And then even Mikhail and he goes on the other side. Yeah, Sergachev. And Cal Foote, great extra player, in there. He's a young fella. He's just growing. He's going to, you're only dealing with under $1 million on him and Zach Bogosian. Zach Bogosian, by the way, think of it. Who had him before? Oh yeah, Toronto. I think we all know. Yeah, I think we all know.
But he also played in Tampa the year before that. So
yeah. No,
this is a trend. He's going back to.
Yeah, Hey, look at what happens. When you go to the right team. Even last year, right, when you had some players moving around, like even Perry getting over there, and you look at Pat Maroon moving over there. You got to be a good team. You got to pick up players right. But anyway, that back end, I think, is just so defensively responsible. They can play man-to-man. They can play the zone well. They can do a hybrid. And the way that they play that game, they have an excellent 2-1-2 system that the Tampa puts in place. But here is the question. Have they faced the possibility of speed like Colorado brings? Colorado brings speed like relentlessly over and over. However, I think the difference is, this will be a case maker. I think the first game's going to tell us. Cale Makar. Can they stop Cale Makar? Because he gains that zone all the time. He carries that puck on that back line. I think the first game is going to be a telltale whether Tampa's going to be able to handle Cale Makar or not. You handle Cale Makar, I think you can take the series. You don't handle Cale Makar, and this is going to be a throw-up who's going to win this series.
Yeah, and I honestly think it's a toss-up for how this series is going to go. There could be a sweep either way, or it can go to Game 7. I really don't know. It's hard to call. I can't imagine a sweep, but that's how close these two teams are. Now, if I were a betting man, and I'm not because I have no money to bet with, and I'd probably be broke and not even on this show because I can't afford a phone. Do you think people should expect over or under 4 goals per game? And that's between two teams.
Over. Okay. Yeah, you got so many people that can score on this team. So if you think about it, let's just say if you're pro Tampa, and Vasilevsky's still going to let 2 goals in.
Yeah.
And if you think about if you're Colorado, Edmonton was lighting them up over and over, but they just kept lighting it up. So they're going to get 2 or 3 at least, I think, against Vasilevsky. I'd be shocked if Vasilevsky can hold them to 1 or a shutout. I do not think Vasilevsky can actually handle. But they know how to score as well. let's not forget when the players Stamkos, when you're dealing with Stamkos and Kucherov out there playing, and that's if Point's not even back, right? Like you said,
and
I'm sure that they come back.
and
I mean,
people
go ahead.
no, and people kind of discounted Stamkos after that injury a couple of years back, after their first cup, and
Yeah.
people wondered, what was he going to be good enough? Were they going to have to put him on LTIR? There was questions of if they're going to need space, trade him, and he's come back revitalized and had one of the best seasons and really made an impact when players like Killorn and Paquette aren't scoring, and they're still depth guys, but you see Stamkos coming out and really having an impactful game, being that captain, being that leader, and taking the hits, taking the block shots. They're one of the higher teams for block shots because it doesn't matter. You're just giving your goaltender an easy job to save those simple saves.
Exactly. Okay, so what's your prediction in this? Instead of waiting to the end, everyone wants to know right now. Pavel, who do you see taking this series and how many games?
Well, I'm sticking with my NHL prediction online because it's been working, and it's
Colorado. Hang on.
Six.
Okay, it's Colorado, and that's your online, not your two guys prediction?
Well, that's my two guys now. Colorado in 6.
Your two guys now? You're changing it? You can't change it. Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just picking. Okay, so you're going 6, Colorado in 6.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so I am sticking to my original, unlike my partner in crime, my wonderful co-host who changes his mind just like the wind and the rain in Alberta. Yeah. So I am sticking with the Tampa Bay Lightning to take this series, but I am predicting, you guys ready? I'm predicting a 7-game series, overtime win for the Tampa Bay Lightning to be 3-time Stanley Cup champions and the first dynasty since the early 1980s New York Islander to win more than 2 Stanley Cups in a row. That's my prediction. I will say I actually think this series, if you are a fan of hockey, and for all you guys in throughout the United States or other parts of Europe, maybe you get tired of hearing all about Canada because Canada's game. And you know what? Enjoy this because I think right now television in the United States with ESPN and with TNT, I think that this is going to rock. I think you're going to find a lot of new fans, a lot of new bandwagon fans jumping on board. Great hockey. You got the best
100%.
players in the world.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's going to be the best of the best. Rarely do we see the best of the best come face head to head. And, Tampa Bay has had some adversaries and there's been some, unique situations in the last 2 seasons for how things have played out. But really, this is their true test of how, if they beat them, they will become a dynasty. And a lot of those guys will become cemented as Hall of Famers and legends. And we get to talk about how we lived through the time where Tampa Bay was unstoppable and they became a juggernaut. So both credit to Yzerman and Julien Brisebois for setting up that team and even filling that third line that, the Yanni Gourde, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goudreau, because that was a big thing. And they got out. You got Hagel, you got Nick Paul, and you got Corey Perry. So you filled that void.
So, hey, interesting enough, I want people to look back when they're looking at Colorado. Now, Colorado could pull this off. I think still Tampa will take this. But I want you to recognize Colorado's been just on the edge the last few years. They've been working and trying to get there. Look at now. We're not going to take the time today. We'll talk about that maybe next week about Tampa's history and how close they've been for a very long time. Yeah. Even getting to the finals, getting to the Stanley Cup. Oh my goodness, they have been up there, and everyone kept saying that they're not going to last much longer. And then they signed another contract with Braden Point, and they found ways to keep going. Good GMs keep your team at the top. So know this: if you're Florida, you're just getting there. You're just getting, if you're the Rangers, if you're Carolina, all these years of failures and mistakes. Now we go back to Edmonton, even St. Louis. St. Louis is closest still. I'm worried that Minnesota is going to drop off. We'll talk another whole show. But you know what? Because we're talking about that, we did this last time. Let's talk about the two teams and what we could be seeing in off-season moves for both the Edmonton Oilers and the New York Rangers. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the East with the Rangers. So they've been eliminated. They really took Tampa to the brink. Even though Toronto took him to Game 7, you could definitely tell that there was more of a pressure from Rangers given Shesterkin, and what he's brought. But they have a lot of guys signed. They have a lot of up and coming guys that are solid. Gerard Gallant was a great pickup, and I'm sure Jim would agree, and he could probably give us some more insight. But really, the one question I have is Capo Caco. What's going to happen with him? He was benched for Game 6. Is that going to have an effect on something? They just signed Valery Krzysztof, right? Who there was some tension with the organization, similar to Jesse Puljujärvi in Edmonton before he came back from Finland.
Kravtsov.
Sorry.
Yeah, he signed to a contract now next year. Yeah,
for 1 year at $875, I think it was. So it's a very cheap, low cost. Could fill in your top 9 next year. You have your top line. You have your Panarin. He's been solid. You have your Chris Kreider's, your power forward. Mika Zibanejad. Now Ryan Strome, is he going to re-sign? We're going to see what's going to happen there. Your back end. Andrew Kopp. They picked him up in the trade deadline. A great pickup. Yeah. He wants to stay there. He's not going to sign short term. I think he was a great addition to that team. They had a really good go of it. Their back end is only going to get better. I think Jacob Trouba, albeit I'm wondering if the league's going to take a look at some of the hits he made over the playoffs because they're questionable whether they're not. That's a discussion. But, Keandre Miller was a great, phenomenal, steady presence, even though he's a young rookie. I think he's 22, 23. So, great young presence. And I think, who's his name? Ryan Lilgren. Lindgren, yes.
Yeah.
He was one of their best defensemen in almost every series that I watched. So I applaud him. And yeah, the future looks bright with New York Rangers. They've got a few more picks. And I think, as you kind of alluded to it on previous episodes, so check him out, Alex Lafreniere really stepped up and really became a prominent player for that team and really bona fide himself as a top 6 player for the Rangers. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings next year.
So what do you think will happen? Okay, so now let's talk about the practical. So I'm just going to, excuse me, just jump on board with you with all these players that you're talking about. But we have contracts coming up. We have to make some decisions, RFAs, UFAs. Where are they going to go from here? So let's first walk through some of these. So Alex Lafreniere. So in this case, he's only got this season coming up. So next season, he'll make his $925. This is the next year. You're talking about top 6. I think some Ranger fans would feel disappointed. Some people outside the organization would say the points aren't there. What would you say to Ranger fans that don't feel he's a top 6?
Because not all players have to produce. It's about other areas and facets of the game. You look at someone like Bo Horvat in Vancouver, who may not put up all the big points, but he still is an all-around dynamic player and makes an impact. You don't always need the points. You just need to have the defensive side game down. And you look at some of the others, and I know he's a defenseman, but you look at Rasmus Sandin, Rasmus Sandin, I think it is. Yeah. In Buffalo. No.
Rasmus Dahlin.
Rasmus Dahlin. Sorry, I get my Allings mixed up. So Rasmus Dahlin took a while to develop, but when you have the right pairing and you have the right coaching system and you have the right structure in place, that helps you build. And I think George Gallant made that kid line very fun and prominent, and he made them impactful. And points will come because he'll still have a breakout season. I don't think he's reached his ceiling cap, but it takes a while, right? Some players break through a little bit later. Yeah. And that's perfectly okay. You saw what Kirill Kaprizov did in Minnesota, and he was 24. Michael Bunting, who had a career year, and he didn't really do anything before that with Arizona. So things happen, and I think there's a lot of positives to take out of this. My biggest question is Capo Caco, and what does that mean?
Okay, so what are you doing with them? What do you think they're going to do?
I think he's
going
to be traded. I think he's going to be traded. I don't think he fits in that system. I know he's an RFA, but I don't think it's a perfect system. When you get benched, even though Ryan Strome looked hurt, you could have played someone younger and gotten that experience. But again, I know a lot of coaches turn to their vets, but
so we'll come back to what we could do on a trade front. Let's throw out some ideas and some thoughts afterwards. Okay, let's not quite go there yet. So Pavel thinks that he could be looking at a trade. I actually think if they can get high enough value, the trade is going to be their better benefit right now because they need to start competing over these next 3 years. And can you wait for them? So let's talk more. Let's talk about Ryan. So Ryan Strome. Is he coming back? He's a UFA. They need him as their centerman, right? So you got Zibanejad and Strome, generally speaking, is what you're working with. Now, Philip Cheadle, I think that's how you say his name,
Cheadle, yeah.
Cheadle, yeah. So, I mean, now he can play the center or left wing. Are you dropping him and putting Cheadle at your as your second line center? Or or you put, like, Barclay should not be. Barclay really should be on your third line, right? Barclay, yes. Goudreau. So are you going to find money somewhere, somehow, to sign Strome? Like, what would you guys do? Just write in the comments here while Pavel tells us.
I honestly think you focus on re-signing Kopp, and you also have, I don't know if Vetrano is signed a little bit longer, if he's a RFA or UFA.
No, he's a UFA this year.
Yeah, so, and I think you want to focus on bringing him back because he had a lot of chemistry, as did Andrew Kopp, because that would fill out your top six.
Okay.
Again, I don't think Ryan Strome is back.
Wow.
And there's a lot of teams that are going to be wanting his service because he's going to probably want in the area of 6.5 to 8.5 million as a center. Will he get it? I don't know, but that's kind of what his camp is going to be asking for. Yeah, but he can put up.
Yeah, well, think about it. Like Seattle, right? I mean, they have money. They can go and grab a guy like Ryan Strome easily and give him the money he needs right now.
Arizona, Montreal, they're all going to be looking for centers.
Well, Philly's going to have a problem on the cap space, but I hear you. Okay, so you think Ryan's gone? You think Capo, they're going to try and trade? If not this year, they'll just do qualifying and then look for something to trade him later if they can't do it at the deadline.
All the people looking for a potential goalie, watch Alexander Georgiev move.
Yeah.
They're going to find a cheaper option. I think he's going to move.
So you think they'll hopefully move him as an RFA before he actually, and then not.
That is correct. Yeah.
So maybe by the trade deadline.
Yeah.
The draft. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, and I would say Georgiev, that he's gone. Who else was there? Justin Braun. Do you think Justin Braun's coming back? They traded for him.
Maybe not. If they get
35
him for a cheap deal, sure. Yeah, I mean, 35. He's a cheap deal. He was picked up, at the trade deadline. He wasn't that noticeable in the games. Like, he was okay, but he made what he did. But he may just go sign somewhere as a UFA for a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal.
Okay.
Unless they can get him out a cheap contract.
Yeah. Well, and
fill up their bottom depth.
He is a right defenseman, even though he's 35 years old. So if he can grab something somewhere, maybe to help be that extra, number 6-7 defenseman,
somebody will pick him up.
Yeah,
for between 750 to 1.5 million.
Yeah, it's funny. It's actually, it could literally double the amount, but it's still such a small number in the NHL. So anyway, guys, that's some of the different ideas that as we're throwing out there. Just remember the dead cap space that they have. Like, for example, next year, they got Shattenkirk. They still are eating some of that money on Shattenkirk. Jan Girardi, so they got about 2.5 between the two of them. Brad Richards finally is off the books, by the way.
Wow.
Anthony D'Angelo, though, they are going to be paying out just under $1 million or so. So they have about $3.25 million just in dead cap space that they're going to be working with. So, but okay, let's move over to the Edmonton Oilers. What do you think's going to happen over there? This is an interesting season. You got Kane, who's come up. He's a free agent. You got the news going out. Of course, Mikko Koskinen, he's gone. He signed his contract. You posted that on our site. So if you guys want to follow, like, share, follow us on Facebook. Two Guys in Hockey Talk, and get all the latest stuff going around. You just start walking through. There's a ton of stuff happening around Edmonton, and they are pushing because they're in that prime spot right now.
So I think the first thing they're gonna be their focus, and they've talked about it, is the goal or the coaching, and whether Dave Manson and Jay Woodcroft are back. Most likely they are with what they were predicting, but as they stand, teams are interested because as of today, we learned that Bruce Cassidy has been hired by the Vegas Golden Knights, so that's one goalie out of the goalie carousel that's out. Barry Trotz still rumored to be out there. John Tortorella, a few others. We'll see what takes place. So I think signing their head coach and their assistant defensive coach is going to be important. That's going to happen. There's definitely going to be a difference in net. So they're going to probably go after a goalie. There's so many out there. Maybe it's a trade. Maybe it's a UFA signing, whether it's Ville Husso, Alexander Georgiev, as we mentioned, or, go ahead.
Okay. So let's take a moment. So coaching, get that dealt with, taken care of. Goaltending would be the first priority is what you're looking at, correct? Okay,
Yes.
so if we're talking about goalies that are available, so why don't I do this right now? Let's walk through some hypotheticals. We know
Okay.
you guys, if you're an Oiler fan, you're sitting there going, "What's out there and what's looked at?" And so let me just highlight. I just got the list up here in front of us here. We got all of these guys are UFAs, so some are going to resign still. You got Marc-Andre Fleury, you got Darcy Kemper, going to be a free agent. You got Thomas Greiss, you
And
got
possibly a
Yaroslav.
Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, possibly. You got Halak. You got Braden Holtby. You got Jack Campbell, who will be a UFA here. Casey DeSmith becomes available if he doesn't sign over in Pittsburgh again. You have Malcolm Subban. You have I'm just looking at a few of the other guys. Carter Hutton's available again.
No, he's retired. He's retired as of today.
Oh, okay. Didn't hear
He
about
retired,
it.
so he's
Okay.
done.
Okay, good news. See, my buddy knows something about hockey just at the right time. So looking at most of those, I mean, really, you're looking at Fleury, Kemper, Holtby. I'm just going to give out Campbell, and that's probably about it for 4 goalies that are UFAs. And then the rumors have started moving out there about someone like John Gibson being open to the trade market and opening up his list.
Well, he said no. Him and his agent have not discussed it. So that could be a ploy. Who knows? But
So,
just FYI.
Yeah, that's the agent saying that. And so
No, John Gibson said that. He physically came in.
Yeah. Where do you actually have that posted somewhere? No, just put that up on our site so people can actually see that, because I actually saw something that was coming in differently on that. So that'll be curious, because I'm just wondering if he's actually saying he's not open to trading or he didn't ask for a trade. What we're hearing.
Says he's happy to be Anaheim and he has not requested to be traded.
Okay, no. So that
all of the rumors I got in a call from my agent Kurt Overhaul yesterday are false, because I haven't had a conversation with anybody there. He told Stevens from The Athletic.
So,
none of that is true.
So, okay, yeah. So there's a difference here, because I wasn't saying he's asked to be requested to be traded. So he has gone privately, and not going to mention, there's 2 people very plugged in the hockey world that have connections to John Gibson that said he is open to looking at moving and adding to his potential trades if they want to move him. He is open to it. He's never requested a trade, which makes sense, right? Because if he starts requesting, then it really narrows the field for his. But so there is a difference between what I was saying. So the market, but Anaheim has started talking to people without talking to him, obviously. So
which could take call.
Yeah, well,
if somebody offers you Connor McDavid for John Gibson, as silly as that trade sounds, Anaheim's not going to entertain that.
I actually know there's people saying that Anaheim is talking about. They're actually throwing ideas and thoughts out there and letting Gibson go. It frees up cap space and lets them start rebuilding on the back end.
If you guys
are
watching in Anaheim, maybe you guys can give us the download on what's happening.
Please.
And privately message us and let us know.
Yeah, sweet. Woo. Okay, so let's look at Edmonton here. Out of all those people, there's talk about Smith and Duncan Keith being told by Holland, if you're going to retire, I need to know before July 1st. They have till that day. I find that kind of weird. They both are. I know Keith's going to make less money at around $1.5 million, and yet his cap is 5.5. But I can't see the guy actually retiring when he loves the passion of hockey, even if it saves cap. And it would hurt because that would fall back on Chicago.
Well, apparently there's been some rumblings about how the NHL wouldn't necessarily allow that to affect, so that we can have the negative cap influence in Edmonton, which isn't the rule under CBA. Well, I mean, the NHL has gotten up to some shady stuff before, so I don't. That's my rant or conspiracy theory. You never know, but the NHL will work. I mean, look at what they did with with the Evgeny Dadonov trade. Like, that happened, and then they had to retrace their steps. So don't say never say never. I'm not saying it would officially be long term. I'm saying things happen in the NHL where people make errors. Arizona Coyote make errors on their payments. So things happen. There's definitely some interest in them retiring, because that will give them. Now, the rumblings with Smith is that he's just banged up and that he doesn't know if his body can take it. And as you all know, he was injured for half the season. So when he came back, he definitely had a good go of it, but it really affected him. He had a great March and April. And, you know, he went through the playoffs, but some of his body was hurting. When you get to that age at 40, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know. I'm not that old. You know, I'm not a geezer, but you may feel it in your bones. So
okay, so let's get back then. Let's get back to Edmonton. So let's just say Smith stays. Koskinen's gone. You got $4.5 million in Koskinen's place. Is basically what you have. But you have Stuart Skinner, who's not waiver eligible next year, has been, I mean, he's ready for 20 to 30 games at least this year to play. But most people believe you can't run with Smith and Skinner as your two guys this year.
Why not?
Well, okay, everyone out there, why can't you run and have a competitive team with Smith and Skinner to play? Or are you taking chances?
If you draft and believe in your guys,
oh, come on, man.
What's the point?
You're trying to win now. The guy's never played that many games in his entire NHL life, and you're going to run with that for the season?
They ran with Koskinen for 3 years, not knowing
because they had no choice. They had no choice. What do you run with?
What do you mean they had a choice? They had a GM who made the deal, and they had a president of hockey operation, Bob Nicholson, who allowed the deal.
Yeah, but what's the GM? So what's Ken Holland supposed to do? He inherited the mess. He can't do nothing about that unless
he had $25 million last year. He could have gone something.
But they did. They went after Kemper, and the year before that,
and he didn't want to pay the higher premium from Arizona. That was the whole thing. Yeah. He didn't want to
you
pay
saw what the
pick.
premium was? Do you see what the premium was? It was a first and a second round first overall.
Where's Colorado? Where's Colorado right now in the Colorado?
They're not there because of Darcy Kemper. They're not there because of Darcy Kemper. It was Pawel Francois who actually beat the Oilers. Kemper got lit up like a rented mule, man. I mean,
what about the first two series?
He was like a yellow cab.
What about the first two series? Did the Nashville series and the St. Louis series mean nothing?
They are actually lucky that they're even in there. If they had Darcy Kemper, it wouldn't have been there. I'm telling you, Darcy Kemper is not as good. Okay, guys, what's your thoughts here? We disagree big time on Darcy Kemper here. He thinks they're in the finals because of Darcy Kemper.
I'm not saying it's specifically because of that. What I'm saying is that you either put it all in now, like Colorado has, or you continue to do a balance of both.
You don't do one season for a first round and a second round draft pick and a prospect. Way too much for 1 year of Darcy Kemper. Like
if you believe in your group, you should. Minnesota did it
for 1
Toronto
year,
has done
and then he walks for first round. Oh my goodness!
You don't know what can happen.
Oh my goodness! I'm glad that you're not the general manager of the Edmonton Oilers. Okay, so
because I wouldn't sign silly contracts like Duncan Keith to 5.5 and then go back to him and as well as Smith and say, hey, by the way, could you retire now after I took on that silly contract and didn't ask for any retention from Chicago? Come on.
Yeah. In the
meantime, know how embarrassing it is? Evan, if I'm your employer and I come to you and I say, hey, listen, Evan, I want to bring you on for 2 years and I'm going to pay you this amount of dollars. And you're like, that's great. And, you know, you have a good year of work. And then, you know, you get a little banged up. You can't work as much. And I come to you, but, you know, you had a fairly overall good season, you know, of work. And I come back to you and I say, hey, actually, you know what? I offered you way too much money on your contract. I need you to kind of stop working for me because it's not going to work anymore. That is the silliness of this situation.
Well, apparently you're the boss that when the company's about ready to land a big deal, you're going to bring a junior exec in to finish it off, just like you'd bring Skinner in to be your number one guy just because he's done good in the American Age stuff.
I didn't say you were being number one.
Okay, so you're going to leave the old guy that keeps leaving you at the altar every single year, and Mike
1A,
Smith.
1B. 1A, 1B.
You just said he was injured for half the year, and you're still going to stick with him. But oh my goodness. Okay, we better move on to a new topic.
No. So you're conflating what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have 40 games for one guy, 40 games for another. What's the problem there?
You cannot play Skinner 40 games first season in the NHL. He played only 7, 8 games last year. You can't run him for 40. You can't depend on Smith for 40. The guy may only make it half a year. Now you've taken another year of the contract of your top players.
2.5.
And you're taking a chance on your goaltending. The Oilers need, and I'm sure every Oiler fan, type it in, send us some notes, whatever you think, but I'm sure almost every Oiler fan tells you need a dependable and a reliable goalie that you know has experience and can play in the playoffs right now.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with you there.
So I think this is what happens. I think they run with Skinner. at his less than $1 million per year because he's in his entry-level contract. And then they will actually, if he does not retire, Smith will very much be out of the organization. They might find something else for him to do, but he will not be there with his contract. And I think they're going big game hunting. And I do think, whether I agree or don't agree, that they're going to be looking at someone like Darcy Kemper if he does not re-sign in Colorado. They will possibly relook at that. I think they will try to look in to let go of some assets to do something with Anaheim for John Gibson. And then possibly, depending what happens in Toronto, they could go big game hunting after Jack Campbell. So what you're
saying is now is the time to invest and go all in after you just had a season that you believed you're going to go all in, and now you're going to throw picks at it.
What are you talking about? You talking about John Gibson?
Whether it's John Gibson, Jack Campbell, you're just saying you throw the sink at getting like a starting goaltender.
You said specifically you would go after Darcy Kemper for 1 year of a contract and then he could walk. John Gibson has 5 years left. That's why they might actually go after
He actually has 4, not 5. That's 6.4.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And since you're so smart, thank you for that information.
But okay.
So, but the difference is you're throwing it away for a 1 year shot, and as opposed to being able to throw it away to still have a few years in that window. That's the total difference.
So you were okay with the Athanasiou and the Sam Gagner trade? And
no,
throwing
not
the
at all.
second round picks at?
No, wasn't okay with that at all. Actually,
were you okay with the Derek Brassard and the Brent Kulak deals? They're winning 1 year because they're both UFAs.
Yeah, I was, but look at what they paid. The pay was low. Okay,
well, we have barely any second round picks that we ever get to benefit from.
So because I think people would like to say, okay, what the heck are you two guys talking about? We want to figure out what to do with the Edmonton Oilers. So what's going to potentially happen here? Let's get back to the topic. So you think that they're going to go with Skinner and Smith? Is that what you think they're going to do?
No, okay, I think they'll go after what's it called? A goaltender. But given all the other priorities they have, and again, things happen in the NHL whether people don't want to play here, whatever, you may have to have. I mean, if Smith retires, that's
no
a big
theory.
If.
I don't want hypotheticals. What do you think's going to happen?
I think they're going to go after. I think they're going to go after someone like a Casey DeSmith, who may not be a veteran, but he's more proven, and he can play well. What?
Okay.
They don't have the cap space, Evan. Where are they going to pay? And you're paying a premium
first
for
of all,
UFA.
First of all, they have $4.5 million. They just gained straight out without doing anything. They've gained it from Mikko Koskinen. First of all,
that went to Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, and so
Darnell
I'm telling you,
Nurse's contract comes into effect next year at 9.25.
You don't take goalie money and give it to the defenseman. You take other money and you make it work for the defenseman. They
How do you think money works? The cap is flat and it's standard.
Okay. So according to you, you take the $4.5 million from Koskinen, give it to the other guy. So now for goalies, you have $2.5 million for goalies. Because according to you, you don't replace goalie money with goalie money. They take their separate. They take so much money for forwards, so much for your defense, and then they add their goalies, and they have an approximation. Every team does that. I don't know how you even think that you can think that. You take goalie money and put it up there.
But there's also a cap for how much you can go up to. So if you're counting that you have $4.5 million extra available, that money is going directly towards
you do
Nurse.
realize, but you do realize that you don't move it from a goalie section over to the defenseman.
It doesn't matter. It's still
it does matter because
million.
if you take $4.5 million from Koskinen's money, you have $2.5 million to pay your goalies. You can't. So you got to now take the money from somewhere else. So I'm telling you, they have a certain amount of money. They're not using that. They're going to move the cap around, and they're going to take it from areas. So whether they move Barrie, that's what we're trying to get to talk about, right?
Right. Oh, I agree with you. But I'm saying that you're not getting that extra space. They may not sign Jesse Puljujärvi again. Yamamoto is their priority. Duncan Keith won't retire. Evander Kane, I think, has priced himself out of town, and a lot of teams are not going to want to get him because he's going to want $6 to $7 million. Not to mention the thing that's happening with San Jose. You know, you've got your big superstars locked up, which is good. You know, you have your Connor McDavids, Leon Draisaitl's, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Whether you sign Brett Kulak again, I mean, Montreal is interested in bringing him back. He'd be good for their young guys. He would benefit from being in Edmonton. He is a local guy. You never know. You don't know
Yeah.
if they don't have the money. You're losing Archibald. They're talking about buying out Cassian.
Okay, so according to you, it looks like the Oilers are going to miss the playoffs next year.
No, I didn't say that. Nope.
No. So no, because I don't hear any replacements to keep the team minimum what it is. So what do you actually think they're going to do to fix this? Because you do realize that they got to move money around. They got to find a way to be creative.
There'll have to be a creative trade. Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
maybe a three-way trade with a different team. Something involving with Tyson Barrie, who's got a reasonable contract and is offensive prowess and can score, even though he's a team guy.
Okay,
he may go. Archibald's not coming back. Maybe Cassian goes there where people need some grit. You look at someone like.
Okay, so how are you replacing Kane? How are you moving around there? Are you moving Nuge up so he play in the top 6 again? Is that what's going to?
Yes, because you have Ryan McLeod as your third line center.
Okay,
really coming to his own.
Okay, that makes sense. So
maybe you look at Warren Fogle. Maybe you look at moving him.
Okay, fair enough. Now, because of the truculence of what Kane brought, goal scoring and the big, so it's like Zach Hyman, right? You take Zach Hyman out, and you're not even making the playoffs. I don't think. Yeah. I mean, they had Kane and Hyman who made them a playoff team. Those two guys. So there's a lot of talk.
Toronto.
So there's a lot of talk that you're going to have to replace that. I know Bob Stauffer from Oilers Now is going on about a guy like Josh Archibald. Can you make some type of trade so that you can bring him in and have that truculence, that big guy? He's fast, he's tough, he hits, plays playoff hockey, right? But you move him to the right side. And so the interesting point with this, you talked about Puljujarvi. Now I want to come back to talking about the New York Rangers. Could something happen here between Kakko and Puljujarvi? Because you're dealing with now Kakko has more upside, but actually if you see what actually has been brought to the table by Puljujarvi, and if they keep him right on that second, third line kind of thing and moving, could he fit well because they have a lot of the other talent and they would appreciate what he brings in building other people's metrics. Offensive zone presence. He plays good defensively. Maybe it wouldn't be overly expensive, but they can give him another $500,000 more than Edmonton could because of their cap.
Possibly. I would look at someone like Carolina, who Edmonton has traded in the past before, and they like their Finnish players over there. Imagine if he would go to there for something. And you've got a few players there who may be interested in being moved around, So look out for Carolina.
So what happens to Kakko then? If they trade him, where would they trade? Because they're going to need to get something quality for him, right?
I don't know. It's hard to get a gauge on what's going to happen with Kakko and what Chris Drury is going to do over there in New York.
Okay. So I'm going to throw this out there, guys. I actually think that Evander Kane is going to sign in Edmonton. They're going to be doing some fancy moves. There's going to be, I think Cassian is gone. I think Fogle is gone. They're going to find ways to move him out, and Barrie. I think they're going to find a ways to do that. And I think they're going to try to look within what you're talking about for a goalie to really replace between 4.5 and 5.5 for someone else to come in. And this is why I wonder if Gibson will actually receive, because I believe he's on the no trade to Edmonton list. If he did come, not saying I think he's the answer, but a lot of people believe he would work well in Edmonton, that are kind of those pundits per se. But if he did, could they move out someone like Barrie? See, because if you bring money in, could you get money out at the same time and then give up? Now you guys won't like this. That probably means so yesterday on Oilers Now, Bob Stauffer also talked about in Edmonton there, Tyler Wright, their player, they sounded like their first round draft pick is in play, but that's only going to be for a top goalie. So what if someone like Gibson, heaven forbid, they let go of their first round draft pick last year, Xavier Bourgault, who's now going into the Memorial Cup, won the QJMHL, Quebec Major Junior Hockey League Championship with the Cataracts. And what if they did him, a prospect, or got out some cash in a Barrie, Xavier Bourgault, and their first round draft pick for John Gibson if he make the move?
Possibly. They are on the rebuild.
And now whether that's what they do or not, I think that's what Holland's going to be doing to try to shuffle things around. And this is what I wonder, and fans aren't going to like this. If they sign Kane, the reason they're going to be able to sign him is because term. They're going to give him like they did with Nugent Hopkins and with Hyman,
Hyman.
where the last few years, no one talks more than 3 usually. And what if they're saying we're going to give you 5 years at 5.5 or 5? Like, I mean, 5 years at 5.5 is a lot of money when the guy is already. How old is he right now?
27, 28.
Is he really? I thought he was just I thought he was older. I thought he was like 30
Maybe
already.
it is. Maybe he's 30. Yeah.
But anyway, I and there's just some little things that I'm kind of reading between the signs. Oh my goodness, buddy, it's getting late. We're at the end of our show. We haven't even talked about nothing else.
Well, there's a lot to talk about, and it's been very fascinating. So you guys can write your comments or predictions of what trades are possibly going to happen, whether it's Edmonton, Rangers, your prediction for the final, who's going to take Lord Stanley home. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Evan, any final thoughts and words or any rants you want to get off on?
No, I just want to
rant too much.
Yeah, there's a lot more rants coming to our rants. I just want to say congratulations right now to the Edmonton Oil Kings of the WHL. 12 wins with only 3 losses going in and winning the WHL championship. To the Shawinigan Cataracts, Xavier Bourgault, draft pick of the Oilers also. By the way, there's Maverick Bourque, who also plays with the Cataracts, and Xavier Bourgault were on Team Canada junior team. And there's 5 on the Edmonton Oil Kings. There's a lot of people in the Memorial Cup that were on that World Canadian junior team, interesting enough. And right now, I believe it's the Hamilton Bulldogs and the Windsor Spitfires are going into a Game 7 to see who wins. And St. John Sea Dogs will be hosting the Memorial Cup. Guys, it's going to, if you don't watch, go on to TSN if you can get it even online. They're doing a fabulous job with this. I'd like to talk more about this stuff leading into our next week.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Remember to like, share, subscribe. And as always, Evan.
In the meantime and in between time.
Woo! It's 2 guys in hockey talks. Keep your sticks on the ice.
And your head up, buddy. Cheers, guys.